All right, it is 6 o'clock. Just going to check with our technology staff in the back to make sure that we're turned on and broadcasting, and then we'll get started. All right, we're good. My name is Steve Krecklow. I'm the village administrator for Germantown. Like to thank everyone for coming out tonight on a kind of a windy, rainy November night. So appreciate you all taking the time to be here. Also, I hope we have a lot of folks who are watching on Channel 25 or watching on YouTube. We are broadcasting this meeting live. We also, just so everyone is aware, we will be recording the meeting and making it available on the village website. So if you enjoy it so much the first time, you want to get a second take, it'll be on the village website, and you're more than welcome to take another look at it. Or if you want to even better spread the words to your neighbors and friends in Germantown here, that if they weren't able to attend the meeting or watch this evening, that it's online, and we want to try to get as much participation as we possibly can. So the purpose of the meeting, the reason we're all here tonight, many of you are probably remember the old Flower Source, the nursery over on Pilgrim Road that was open for many years and provided some great services to village residents here. Unfortunately, that closed down a couple of years ago. And that opens up the loss of the Flower Source and the business there does open up some opportunities and potential for redevelopment of that area, both the Flower Source property itself, as well as possibly some of the surrounding properties. And there have been some contacts that the village has had with different developers who might be interested in doing that. And the village board decided that before any path is taken or any route is pursued, they wanted to make sure that they involved the village residents and got input from all of you, as well as your friends and neighbors, about what the vision that the community has for that area of our village. So the folks who are sitting down at the dais here tonight are from Rinka Architects, and they have a lot of experience working with communities that are looking to develop a vision for a critical area of their communities, and they're going to apply that methodology here this evening. This is intended to be the first of at least a couple of meetings to get input. There's a kind of a blank slate that's open at this point to determine what this critical part of the Village Center District looks like in the future. So one other housekeeping item, if you noticed on the back, there was a pad of paper. It's a little old school, but if we could just ask you to put your name in, and if you have an email, we'll put together an email list and make sure that everyone is informed of any future meetings or input sessions or things along those lines for this part of the community. So with that, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Eric from Rinka and let him get started.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks everyone for coming out. And we hope to have an active participation here on our visioning session. We have an interactive presentation. So if you have brought your a device, a cell phone or a tablet or something, we're going to have a QR code that we scan, and we can sort of answer questions or participate in some of those activities together. If you don't have a device, if you could just make yourself known, I see the paper copies of some of the questionnaires are circulating, or if you don't want to use your device, because I know we all are plugged into technology quite a bit. So just let us know, raise your hand, or give us a holler. So what we're going to cover this evening is we're going to review the vision from the comprehensive plan. So you guys are fresh off of producing the 2050 plan. That plan is guiding this study area, but we want to continue to build off of that plan. We want to introduce and prioritize some planning principles that, again, we took directly from that plan and from these preliminary conversations. We've been involved in the project for just a couple of weeks, so we have not generated any ideas yet. We're really here to learn what you want in your community so we can collaborate together on the plan. We're going to discuss a vision for the future of Germantown. This isn't about us in the room today necessarily. This is about setting up a framework for the future future generations of and residents of Germantown. So this goes beyond, I think, all of us in the room, our conversations today, which is exciting. That's why I get up in the morning. And then we're going to at the end, we'll all stay around for Q&A. We're not going to have an open mic Q&A this evening because we don't have anything to respond to yet. So this is about collecting information, building a vision together. So a little bit about us. My name is Eric Main with Rinka. We are placemaking experts, master planners, and urban planners. We are also an architecture firm, so we know how development works. We work in the vertical and the horizontal, and we know how development deals come together. So we're going to bring not only a planning perspective, but we're going to bring a real boots on the ground development perspective to hope to move this project forward, not just do a plan on paper. We want to really make things happen in Germantown. So again, I started by saying we've learned a lot from the 2050 plan, and we have a start of a vision statement. I'm going to read that out for everyone in the room, and then we'll get into some activities and continue to build a vision around this development opportunity. So the vision for the redevelopment will consist of a mixed-use master plan community, including residential, commercial, and community space. To accomplish this, the Village of Germantown's vision through their recent 2050 plan will need to be incorporated and create the gateway for Germantown that focuses on the synergies of various densities of housing, mixed retail activities, all accessible through new pedestrian infrastructure, and delivers a Germanic character to the development. So that's kind of our sort of start of a vision that we're working from, but we want to test that with all of you. We want to learn more and continue to build that vision. The study area that we're talking about is shown on the screen now. So Mequon and Pilgrim Road really intersect the study area. We talked about the flower source being the kind of catalyst for starting to talk about a redevelopment opportunity. The area shown in that boundary on the screen is not meant to be all redeveloped. Some of it will maybe have just a light improvement, maybe a right-of-way improvement, maybe some new lighting or street furniture. We haven't got that far yet, but just know that this study area is not intended to be a complete redevelopment of every single building and parcel within that study area. Does that make sense? And a little bit closer view of that area. Again, we are going to look at some development in some areas, lighter development in other areas, and we're going to work through with you to provide a vision for this area. So I'm going to put you guys to work as well. So if you have a device and you know how to scan a QR code, otherwise you could follow along in paper copies. So if anyone needs a paper version, please raise your hand. But if you point your camera at that QR code and click the button, you should be seeing an arrow and a sentence that says you're all set. So just waiting to see if we got some nods around the room. It's looking good. Okay. Anyone need help or anyone need some paper?
Okay, we're gonna keep moving, and feel free to interrupt and say that you need a paper copy and if your device isn't following along. Every single answer in this room is anonymous. We won't know who it's coming from, and we're taking all of the information that we can gather tonight. So we'd like to learn a little bit about who's in the room. Are you sure that Ann?
So the first question, and I know it's really small on the phone, is where do you live? So there's a square on the right, which is Germantown. You can we're just looking for approximation. Where do you live, or do you own property in Germantown? If you do, just move that little pointer around and approximately. We're not going to come to your house or knock on the door. Just or if you live in a surrounding community, put that pointer on. There's southeastern Wisconsin on the right there, and then hit the submit button. So it's interesting. We're starting to see who's in the room with us today, or I think there's some people online as well. So we'll give this, I think, another sort of 10 seconds, and we'll keep moving. And this activity is really just to make sure that our technology is working, and that we see who's with us today. Okay, we're going to move to same question. Where do you work? Do you work within the Germantown confines, or do you work outside of the community and travel to and from work? And this gives us a sense of how many commuters we have. And again, just an idea of who's with us today.
And for those of you that are using paper copies, you'll have the opportunity in the back of the room. There's an opportunity to put a pin in a map to let you know.
Yes. Yeah, so I'll just reiterate what Kenny said. So if you you don't have technology with you today, you can do this activity in the back of the room after our meeting. So we're going to move to the final question. Where do you play? Do you play within the confines of Germantown, or do you go elsewhere for your pleasurable activities, whatever those might be? And I know what's that? If it's off the map, you can put the pin just to the side of the map. Maybe put it in the lake potentially. We could have had a whole map of the United States, I suppose, but we're just trying to keep the conversation pretty local. Okay, so thank you all for participating. We're going to keep moving. Our technology seems to be working. We're all collecting data together. And one final question before we get into some more presentation material. In your opinion, what makes the Village of Germantown unique? And we've left 4 different slots. You could put 4 words or sentences, small sentences in, like 2 or 3 words would be ideal, about what makes Germantown unique. And again, this gives us really food for thought on how we start to highlight these characteristics of your community. And you'll start to see this is a word sort. So if more than one person says the same thing, then that word starts to enlarge. So this not only is a brainstorm, but it also starts to give us a priority. So I think we can give this another 10 seconds or so. I think it's pretty powerful to see, what you all feel makes your community unique. Okay, so now we're going to move into some presentation material. We will come back to some more questions a little bit later. So again, one of our guiding kind of north arrows for our project are going to be planning principles. We derived our planning principles from the comprehensive plan that you all hopefully participated in. There were 3 overarching principles that applied to all of Germantown. Those were to preserve and enhance the environment, to invest in people, neighborhoods, and communities. So the great communities that you have today, continue to invest in those communities, and then build a strong economic base for Germantown. Now let's zoom in and look at the Village Center District, which our study area falls within. The guiding principles for the Village Center District are provide a mixed use commercial and residential, have a pedestrian focused feel, Germanic identity and feel, a need for diverse housing opportunities, being multi-generational, increased investment that will allow local businesses to flourish. And these are straight from your comprehensive plan and the work that you've been doing with the village. So we took all of this information and we provided our own list. We kind of distilled that list down into planning principles. And we're going to apply these to that study area that we started the conversation with. That study area, these principles are across the bottom, and we've given them kind of icons so they're easily recognizable. You don't need to memorize them. We're going to go through each one one by one, and then you're going to help us prioritize those principles. So if you imagine we're about to do a master plan, we're about to set up a framework for development, and these guiding principles are going to tell us where to move the pen. If you were to say you want connected neighborhoods would be your leading principle, we would start connecting neighborhoods first with this plan. If you wanted maybe preserving the environment as your number one, then we would try to preserve as much of the environment as our very first move. Does that make sense? So we're using these planning principles to really guide the direction of the plan, and you can all help us do that today. So I'm going to go through each one of them, spend a little bit of time, and we're going to come back to this list, and you're going to help us vote for what you think are your top 3 principles. Starting with an amenity-rich public realm. So creating welcoming public spaces for social gatherings, enhancing and protecting the pedestrian experience, providing active public spaces, and creating access to outdoor activities. That's an amenity-rich public realm planning principle. Number 2 is a strong economic base, providing the highest and best use of property to drive and attract residents and businesses. So we've heard that you want to see those cafes and restaurants in your community. Providing that strong economic base will allow that to occur. Creating development that provides a diverse array of goods, services, and employment. Encouraging infill development and promoting the village as a destination. And then providing residents and businesses with safe, reliable, and adequate utilities, facilities to meet current and future needs. And again, you'll see little quotes appearing on these principles, and we've taken those straight from the 2050 plan. So none of this information we've created yet. We're just learning, and we want your feedback. Number 3, maintain Germantown uniqueness and character. Celebrate village values and identity. Build upon the regional, cultural, and historical influences. Protecting and preserve rural character and quality of life. Number 4, create a walkable community, being pedestrian-oriented, active ground level uses, human-scaled buildings, services within walking distance for residents, tree-lined streets and sidewalks, create better connectivity to neighborhoods and districts within the village, and then a comprehensive sidewalk and trail network that connects to the river. So we heard that right out of the plan, that you guys don't feel that the community is connected as well to the river as it could be from a walkability standpoint. So that's kind of outside of our study area, but we can start to lay the framework and work with the village on creating that connection. Number 5, create connected neighborhoods. Connected neighborhoods enhance street infrastructure to protect the pedestrian experience. So it's always valuable to provide high level of lighting, very safe crosswalks and ways of intersecting with traffic. Safe and frequent crosswalks designed to accommodate all ages and abilities. Wayfinding, signage, and pedestrian-scaled safety lighting, and coordinating with the Washington County Bike and Trail Network Plan, which we're studying now. Number 6, create a gateway and public plaza, flexible space which allows multiple events and uses. This is public space, serve as a community gathering space, and thoughtful design allows passive and active uses all seasons. So a space that we can dream about using all 4 seasons. Number 7, use mix of use to create a destination. So this is really about creating that vibrant environment. We've heard some individuals, or we've read that they want to see more restaurants, cafes, those vibrant environments. It's that mix of all those uses together that really creates that activity and can attract those businesses. Without that mix of use, it's less likely that to attract those kinds of businesses. So providing a balanced mix of land uses, residential, retail, restaurant, entertainment, employment, civic, all of those uses help to create that destinational feel. Number 8, preserve the environment. Preserve natural and physical features of the community. There are a lot of wetlands on this particular site. We're going to make sure to preserve those, but also enhance and maximize green spaces, leverage green corridors as public amenities, and those kinds of environmental, that kind of environmental thinking. Okay, that was a lot of information, so apologize to dump things on very quickly. But what we'd now like to do is if you could pull your device back out, and hopefully you're still on the screen where you can begin voting. I think you have to open up the voting. Oh, we're off and running, I see. For some reason mine's not working. Is it possible to put the QR code back on the screen and then take it back off? So it's kind of like being at the dog races or the horse races, right? We're watching our favorite planning principle. Okay, we've put the QR code back on the screen so you can scan back in. If like me, you got kicked out, you could take that off again. Okay, we're going to discuss some more information and then we're going to come back to this list again at the end of the presentation so that we can revisit your planning principle. Remember which 3 you voted for. And let's keep moving. So with those planning principles, we have the start of a prioritized set of planning principles. Now we want to sort of take a little benchmarking trip around to some of your neighboring communities and maybe further afield. So starting with Mequon. So we're influenced by Mequon as we look at the possibilities in Germantown, particularly the high quality development that creates a sense of identity for the community. Mequon Town Center, as you've seen it evolve for the last maybe 15 years, they've done a great job of creating a sense of identity for Mequon. How do we do the same thing for Germantown? Foxtown development is really a direct comparison to our study area, just in terms of what we could achieve if that's what you all want to see in your community. Similar development, redevelopment activities could come to Germantown as well, like you see on the 9 squares on the right. Looking at Cedarburg is a little bit different because they have a very strong main street that has been, it's a historic main street that's been around for many years. And they're able to capitalize on that main street and really create a wide range of events. And it's a regional destination. They have a lot of different programs in Cedarburg. And those kinds of programs and being a destination allows all of those businesses, those quaint shops and retailers and cafes to keep their doors open. So it's creating a destination is really what's going to pull in that kind of business that we've heard that you want to see here in Germantown. And finally, Grafton. So Grafton's a little bit different because they sort of have a commercial center that's closer to the interstate, and then an activity center, which is their revitalized downtown area. Again, they have that sort of historical downtown that they can leverage and draw on and highly programmed, and now it's their sort of destination center. But thinking about how that links to the gateway and arrival in the commercial sort of portion of Grafton, there's some similarities there. I think with what we have in front of us here in Germantown, you very clearly have the civic and commercial area that we're in now, the historical Main Street, which is of course one of the trademarks, one of your identities in Germantown. How do we link those together and consider this new development? And that's really what we're here to investigate. So those are some 3 local communities. So we wanted to start to get us all thinking about what is uniquely Germantown. That was one of the things that a lot of people voted for as one of the top planning principles. So we started to think, we're being influenced by local communities. Is there a way that we can be influenced by something that can really create a uniqueness in Germantown? And where else should we go than Germany, right? So we went to Stuttgart, just got back last night. No, I'm kidding. So in Stuttgart, it's interesting, this particular Marktplatz, it has a kind of perimeter road network that reminds me of Mequon and Pilgrim. It has a very clear gateway and a sense of arrival, and then it has this nicely enclosed Marktplatz. And in that space, they have a range of different activities. You see a stage set up in the center image with a lot of people. You see a little bit more kind of quaint market on the lower left. And then you see I think there's even some kind of a sports tournament or some kind of a setup in the upper right. But I guess the most important thing about this, so, Stuttgart has had 300 or 400 years to evolve over time. We can't take that 300 or 400 years back to Germantown, but we can take the organization of the space, the dimensions, the scale, the size, the arrival, the gateway. We can be influenced by those things. Here's another one in Freiburg, which is a smaller scale. This is more of a town in Germany. I mean, it's still much more dense than Germantown, of course. And you're on a kind of rural periphery. So this is a little bit different, but again, it's the scale, the size, the quaintness, but still the activated ground floor with the retail and the cafes and those activities that we'd love to see. And wouldn't this be a great destination? And if we get the size and scale and dimension right, the quality of the space starts to be an embrace. You start to feel like this is a destination. And I think that could be the uniqueness that we bring to Germantown. These are only concepts. We're not going to pick Freiburg up and drop it on that parcel, but we're just dreaming right now. But those are 2 squares that we looked at. We looked at many others, and they all have these similar qualities that I started to explain. They have this sense of enclosure. So you feel like you're arriving. There's a feeling of safety. There's a feeling of camaraderie, that you're gathering for a reason in this enclosed space. And on those market days, or the days when you have an activity, you can close the street off and the street becomes part of the Marktplatz. And here's 6 other similar sort of arrangement of spaces. There's also usually a fountain or a monument within that space, and that could be something that we also dream about as a community, what you want to memorialize in this space, if you wanted a space like this. And then finally, it's that ground floor activation. So when there isn't an event, it's still a space that is active, vibrant, exciting to go to when there isn't an event that completely fills the square. And that's our ultimate dream, is to have a destination or a thriving environment that's going to keep business here, going to keep business for generations to come, thriving in Germantown. So we've looked at some surrounding communities. We've flown to Germany. Now let's come back home. And I think there are some other examples that are that are similar in the way they're organized to those two projects we just looked at in Germany, and they're much closer to home. So Wauwatosa Village Center has that same kind of enclosure that I was talking about, that sort of embrace, the buildings embrace the space, the road scoots along the side of it, so it's great from accessibility. You can drive right up to the plaza, step out of the car and you're there. The cafes spill out into that environment. It's all achievable. It's right down the road in Wauwatosa. So these are the kinds of spaces we're thinking about. The other one is the Deer District. Of course, that's a much larger scale, but again, Third Street used to run through the middle of that plaza, and that road was closed down to create a pedestrianized environment. If you've ever been down there for an event, it's very specifically designed for a range of different events and activities. And we can dream about that and what you'd like to see in your community here. So let's take all those ideas back to our study area. So we identified a need for a gateway and a sense of arrival. We've talked about a need for a pedestrian-focused, vibrant destination. So that plaza idea is one idea. A social gathering destination that can attract cafes, restaurants, and businesses, but all of that needs to be, with a mix of uses. So you have to have those residential components and those other components to create that vibrancy and create that great destinational feel. And that's the thing that could be the catalyst for that destinational experience like you're seeing in Cedarbrook, like you're seeing in Mequon, or Grafton. And then finally, needing to connect back to all your great neighborhoods that exist today. So once this, this development is off the ground, having a network of trails and paths so you can move by bike, by pedestrian, not just by car, although we will have plenty of parking, of course, because we want to make sure that it's well served with a good vehicular flow. Okay, so I know this is a lot of information, and what the next thing that we want to do is we want to talk about the different public events that occur today in Germantown. So here's a list of 8 different events in your community today. Do you go to these events? Are these events well attended? What are your favorite 3 events? And you can start to see what we're getting at. We're getting at the idea, if we were to create a green space or a plaza, would there be other events that you're going to want to see? So let's talk about the events that you go to today. So the farmer's market, isn't the farmer's market right outside the front door? Yeah. So it looks like there's no event being forgotten about here. It seems like everything is well attended. It's great to see. Just a couple more seconds here. Wow, there's still farmer's market must be good. Okay, we're going to move to the next one. So when you're visiting surrounding communities, is there anything that you see or any activities that you go to in surrounding communities that you'd like to see in Germantown? Especially in the Village Center District, but is there anything that you'd like to see here in town? I think we can give this 10 seconds too. Well, maybe a little bit longer, 30. Thank you for all the thoughtful ideas. Again, this presentation is going to be, you can click the link after this meeting and you can continue to vote if you want to provide some more ideas if something hits you on the way home. There'll still be an opportunity to provide us that information. And then finally, imagine together we create a new destination center. Could be what it could be a plaza, or it could be some other green. Whatever it is, what kind of events would you like to see there? And these are more community events. 30 seconds on that. And maybe there's some crossover in, some of those activities that you see in other communities that you'd like to see in Germantown, and maybe some of those could work in a space on our study area. Yeah, these are great. Okay, so we've journeyed around, we've talked about a few things, and now we're back to the planning principles. So with everything that we've sort of dreamt about, and maybe these planning principles will, once we voted, they'll be the same as they were the first time we voted. But what are your top three now that you've heard from our team? And we'll just maybe 10 seconds on that. So it does look like, yeah, it does look like these are a little bit different than the first time round. Okay. Let me reset that. It says responding is off. It says responding is off. Here we go.
Okay. All right. Everyone done with that exercise? Okay. So again, we're just getting started. We're learning about your community. Thank you for attending and providing all this great feedback. Our next slide.
Just open comments. You can write any comments or thoughts that you want. We're all going to be here. The village leadership and the design team will all be in the front of the room. You can come up and ask any questions on anything you see on the slides today. Anything related to the specific property, I'd say, village leadership is here too. So, please reach out to them. And we're here to answer any questions. Thank you so much for coming and providing your input. Thank you.
I think you on their phones and.
Yeah, you can continue to provide responses. Yeah.